The Pediatric Lounge, a podcast taking you behind the door of the physician's lounge to get a deeper insight into just what docs are talking about today. From the clinically profound to the wonderfully routine and everything in between.
Well, hello again. Welcome to this week's episode of the Pediatric Lounge. As always, your host, Dr. George Rogo, and myself, Dr. Herb Bravo, here to elevate physicians across America. We have a very special guest today, Dr. Kathleen Wania, fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics, who practices in her own practice in Greece, New York, which is a suburb of Rochester. She is the third of our series of women entrepreneurs who are pediatricians and are changing the way pediatrics is practiced throughout the country and making a difference every day for their patients. Please help me welcome her to this episode. Good morning, George. How are you today?
Hey, Herb. How you doing? It's Tuesday morning, once again, recording and elevating great physicians. So we have a great person today from Rochester, New York. We have Dr. Wania. Did I say that correctly? Kathleen Wania, a solo practitioner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
So
Very well. Thank you.
I'm recording today from my dad's backyard because I have to be here in his house today. So
yeah.
it's
So
a
her
different look
topic
behind.
So her topic today is going to be, is solo practice still a viable job description for new residency graduates? That's a perfect topic and a perfect example.
So let's get started with, why did you become a pediatrician? What was that journey?
So I think it's probably similar to other pediatricians. In school, I was very good at science and math. I always had the desire to help others. I think it was part of my childhood experience that I always had the urge to help others. And so when I went to college and started the biology, biotechnology track to maybe go into some type of medicine, I started working with children in summer camps to try to make money over the summers. And I realized quickly that I loved being around children. Their energy, their resilience just really kind of fed my energy. And so that is how I decided that that would be the career path that I chose.
Wow.
Nice, good career path. I think pediatricians are the happiest people in the world, the most popular doctors. And you know what? We fix everything. And if we don't, they get better by themselves.
Yep.
And so you started out in a group practice and then you decided that you wanted your own practice. Why did you decide to move on to your own practice?
Yes. So I started in a large group out of residency. I wasn't sure of myself and what I was capable of. So I joined a group. It was very helpful for many years to be in a group setting, to have others around you. But then I think after about 5 years, I started to realize that my values and the way that I wanted to practice medicine maybe weren't quite in line with how the group functioned. And so I tried to make a change. I tried to, speak up and be part of the group to talk about these things. But unfortunately, the group was a single owner practice. And so there was just no opportunity for me to really have a say. So I decided if I'm not happy and I want to do things differently, then I can just go out and do it and show everyone that it's possible.
Well, how many people were in this group?
It fluctuated over time, but average about 10 providers.
So 10 doctors. And how many people were like leadership or owners, as you say?
One. She said one.
So the king of the kingdom model. Yeah, that's what a problem, I think, comes in.
Yeah, especially when you have young, really smart people. They want to be part of the decision-making process.
So what happened when you approached them and said, hey, I have a good idea?
At first, I was allowed to make some changes, I think, that would benefit the practice. I implemented their electronic medical record system. I got us to become a certified medical home. But then once that part of my job was finished, that was kind of where my say ended. So I didn't really have a say in the culture of the practice and how we approach patients, how their visits go. And so that's as far as I was able to get.
So how do you want to approach patients? That's very interesting. What's your idea?
Yeah. So my idea, it's there's many, I guess, prongs to that idea, but I wanted to think about the entire patient experience from the moment that a parent calls the office to the moment they arrive at the office, through their visit, when they leave, if they have any questions after they leave. I just felt like everything was so burdensome on the parent. And then it seemed to me that doctors felt like they were also burdening them, which I didn't understand, because I thought that's why we were here, is to serve these patients.
So when you speak, you are kind of saying you wanted to look at the customer's journey, the parent, from the
Yes.
moment they see your website to the moment they're back home after the visit, and try to understand that journey and take out all the pain points or the friction that caused them to be
Yes,
unhappy. That was your main
exactly.
idea. That's wonderful. Very few physicians are humble enough to think of the journey that their customer goes through. And it just baffles me, because every other industry looks at the journey of their customer first and then tries to make it easier on the customer so that they're happy and they use the service more.
Well, that's called practice transformation, which you were trying to do.
Yes.
And a lot of practices will tell you, well, we've always done it like this, so why should we change?
Mhm.
That'll kill
Yeah, I think
business.
I think that starts with taking a look at yourself, which I think a lot of us aren't. It's not easy to do that, to take a look at you, what's inside of you, and address that. And then you can then get into that transformation phase.
Yeah, I do think that's not just a problem for pediatric practices. Everybody talks about the history of Blockbuster. Blockbuster had a huge cash cow, which was renting CDs or whatever they were called to watch your movies. And
Yeah.
Netflix came around and they're like, why should we change? We're making so much money. And, they ended up not being alive anymore. I think that's
Yes.
when you have a big cash cow, it's difficult to see the need for change. So when you embarked on this new journey of yours to start a whole new practice, you're very focused not only on your customer, but also on the design of your office. Can you walk me through what was important to you? Who did you use? What was your most valued themes when you were designing your office?
So we had a nice open warehouse space that I could design the actual architecture of the office. So I did that myself. I drew up the plans and then gave it to an architect, so that they could fit it properly. And then I really looked at architectural design in general and found something called biophilic design that has been shown to decrease stress, anxiety, and even potentially promote healing for patients and their families. So I based the appearance of the office out of that. And I based the flow of the office out of, like, what are the pain points of going to the doctor? And let's try to eliminate those things.
I don't know what biophilic design means. Is it the
Yep. So
colors or the textures or?
it means using natural, like, elements that would naturally occur in nature. So we have real plants in our waiting room, like a plant wall. We have a moss wall, and then you can use other, things that occur naturally, like in nature. So wood, we have a lot of our flooring looks like it's real wood, but it's not. But even if it mimics what nature is like, that itself is considered biophilic design.
Interesting.
And so you didn't use interior designer. You read about this biophilic design and then came up with the ideas, right? Awesome.
Yes.
And then you said something very interesting. How do you eliminate the pain points on the journey once a patient gets into the office through design? What's different in your office than the regular
Yeah,
peds
I mean,
office?
I think everyone has, so every pediatric office probably has their waiting room, and they probably have some little area that is like for kids to play in. And if you're a parent, which I am, and you've ever tried to bring your child to the doctor's office, when you have to go to the window to check in, but the play area is over here, and your kid runs to that play area as you're trying to just get to the window and check in for your appointment, it can be very stressful. So we just made it flow so that the parent and the child are drawn into the check-in window. The child can go over to the play area, which the mom or dad can see them. They're physically, like, nearby. So they're not, off in some little alcove that you now have to kind of drag your child to the check-in window while they're screaming, and you haven't even started your visit yet. Right. So everything just kind of naturally flows and draws children into the place where we want them to go.
Yeah, but with COVID, it looks like waiting rooms are a thing of the past. Like in my office, we don't even have people in the waiting room anymore. They wait in the car, we call them in, they go right into the room.
Yeah, so since we have luxury that it's just me. So we don't double book appointments. So it's just one
Oh.
person arrives.
Okay, so that's okay.
So the flow is, one person arrives, the nurse takes them back, and then we know that 10, 15 minutes later, the next person's going to arrive and they get brought back. So we do use our waiting area, but you're right, there is not a large amount of people in that area.
And how many exam rooms did you put in?
So we have 8.
8.
So we have the ability to grow over time.
Good.
Great. And then did you do individual doctors' offices, or is your idea that all doctors will sit in a?
So I'm sitting in the doctor's office right now, and it's a large open room.
Okay.
So there's not separate offices.
Okay.
Let me tell you a piece of advice when you get bigger. I think the best decision that I've ever made when we redesigned our office, besides the waiting room and letting them stay in the car, we created a central doctor's area. I was against it at first because hospitals did it. But then as we got closer and we started doing it, it creates a sense of team and camaraderie. When you had separate offices, it becomes like an us and them and boys and girls and owners and employee mentality. But if you put everybody in the same room by accident, you start talking about little Johnny's baseball game, and you're just shooting a bet like this, like talking.
Yes.
The doctors.
Yes. We have a lot. Yes. We have a lot of, so our exam rooms are on the exterior of the building space. And then on the interior is half walls for the nurses to be in a space that's separate so they can, draw up the vaccines with some quiet. But then the doctor's areas are kind of like little alcoves next to the exam room. So it is all very centrally located. We all can speak to each other very easily, but we can all find our little spaces to focus if we need to.
Because doctors tend to want to hide. I don't know why.
Yes, there's not many places to hide here.
And then when you were designing the office, which I just love, you like technology, and you like to use, and I'm just assuming from what I read about you, you like to use technology to have better conversations with your patients. And so you adopted texting.
Yes, we have this. Yep, we have a HIPAA secure app that allows us to text, do secure, telehealth videos and e-fax, so we can be paperless also.
Very good. And that was from the very beginning. Do you find that you're on call all the time?
Yes.
So do you find people text you a lot in the middle of the night?
So the good thing about technology is that most of these apps have already done a lot of the thinking for you. So you can set up what's called autoresponders. So if it's after hours and someone texts you, you can send them an auto message that says, "Hi, we usually respond during business hours. If this is something that's more urgent, please call." And that way I don't have to be inundated with the pinging of the text messages. So if a patient wants to text me at night, but they think it's urgent, then they'll just get that message to call me, and then I'll be able to pick up the phone, see their text, see the picture that they sent, and we can handle it right then and there.
Right. What about the hospital privileges and stuff like that? Because I think that's what was the deterrent to a lot of physicians going to the hospital, being on call by yourself. It's overwhelming. Leaving for a vacation, who's going to cover my office? Those are all factors that I think stress a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it does stress. I think there's maybe a fear of being too available that can be stressful, but I think if you set, boundaries that you're comfortable with, it can be very beneficial to you and your patients. And I do have another solo practitioner in the area that we've teamed up. And so when I go on vacation, she takes all of my call, sees all my patients. And when she's on vacation, I do the same for her.
So you guys work as a team, it looks like. So I remember back in the day, way back in the day in the 70s, way before my time, thank God. The partners of RBK, they used to cross cover with some other people, and they were all competitors. And, I cross cover you, and then your patient comes to my office and say, "Why do you want to see her? See me. It's a better office," and blah, blah, blah. And they used to steal patients from each other. And that was the way of the world. I don't think that happens anymore.
No.
No.
And during the day, can you route your text so it goes to your nurses as opposed to you, so you're not constantly interrupted?
Yeah. So we have, again, it's if you look into technology and see what it can do for you, a lot of the work has already been done for you. You just need to kind of look into it. So the way that the app works, the front staff can even send the messages. They can triage them, look at them, and see what it's about, send it to the nurse. The nurse can directly respond, or if it's something that really needs me, they would then triage it to me. So I don't spend all my days going through filtering these text messages. They are filtered either by the system itself, can filter some of the things, and then the staff can do it for you.
Now, is this text, whatever platform, is this integrated into your EHR? Is it part of your
It is not.
third party?
Yep, it's a third party. It's not integrated. That is a barrier that only certain apps integrate with certain EMRs, but it's very easy. They know that, and so they've made up for it by doing this copy and paste function. So you can just copy and paste your whole, in one click, you copy and paste your whole conversation into your EMR.
Right.
So it's not a tedious process.
And what EMR are you using?
We use Office Practicum.
Okay. And then you think that this has reduced your emergency room and urgent care visits?
Absolutely. I don't have any data yet because I only have so much time in a day to get things done. So I haven't done any, surveys or data to look at that, but I can just say anecdotally, I don't review more than, I would say, a handful of ER urgent care notes a week. And they're usually on Sunday. And lately they're usually like accidents, so it's the summertime, everyone's out. And so these are things that would have had to go to the emergency room anyways.
So how have you designed your staff so everything is more of a personalized experience for the parents? And, that makes it less stressful on the kids.
We created a culture. I know people talk about that, and it's hard to tangibly pinpoint what that is, but we really, from the beginning, I set an example, and everyone here is very much following that example of, we address if we have any biases that are either conscious or unconscious towards other people. And if we do, we need to kind of reconcile that within ourselves first before we can approach anybody else. And then we really treat everybody without any assumptions or judgment. So, it's easy sometimes to look at someone and say, oh, they're not doing this right, or, oh, they should be doing it this way. But again, we function at the level that every person is doing the best they can right now. And so we approach them in that way. So that makes it very easy because we don't spend time kind of thinking about those things. And so we have a lot more time to just spend with our families and our patients.
I've learned that medical culture in an office is developed by the personality of the top leading physician. Yep. That's where it's from. If you're a nice person, you're happy, you're cheerful, you interact, you know what? Your staff does the same thing. If you're one of those serious people, very didactic and militant and this and that, your staff does the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. So be happy, smile. It doesn't cost anything, and your staff will do the same. I'm always smiling.
They follow. Yes, they do follow your example.
Yeah.
Now, do you spend a lot of time in choosing your employees?
Well, I was lucky that these employees worked with me at my prior office.
So you knew them well.
Yes, so I knew them well.
Yeah, I think that's also key. Hiring the right people to be around you makes a huge difference.
Yes, I was very, I think, lucky. It flowed very easily that the staff just came with me, and I did not need to search.
I'm pretty good at picking out personalities, and I've already picked you as partner material. Why didn't the former owner see that? You already did the PCMH, you did the EHR, you did the culture, you did the tech, you did a lot.
It's a good question that I don't have the answer to.
One day he's going to retire.
Well, maybe it's a she.
Maybe it's a she. Maybe it's competition. I don't know.
I find it that people, for the most part, are not good or bad. There are some people that don't really like change.
Yeah, it's hard.
Things work, especially if they're over 50. It's been a lot of change. The smartphones, the EHR, the change from infectious disease and pediatrics to mental health. And they're just afraid of any more change. They're like, I'm here. We used to do this with pen and paper, and we used to see a lot more patients, and it wasn't so complicated. And all these things just complicate my life more, and it takes more time for me to do. and they don't want to, they're not open to any change at all. That's it. I mean, this works.
Yeah. I think if you've never like had to change, if you were never forced into change, it is hard to do that. I think if you've, had life experiences that have forced you to change because you had no other choice, then yes, it's a lot easier to see that new path.
Yeah. And some people go to law school, they go to dental school, they go to medical school. And once they're done with their residency, they're done. They stop learning. That's it. I know what I need to know. I'm a really good pediatrician. I don't need to learn anymore. And that's a good candidate to go work at one of the huge medical groups, because there's somebody way up above that's constantly learning and doing what you're doing, finding the technology, looking at the process, changing it, tweaking it to make it better, not every day, every month, every week. But there's some people in and out of medicine that, I'm a lawyer, I went to Harvard, I don't need to change. I'm done. I know what I need to. And once you find yourself facing that as management, it is not a happy place.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think pediatrics is a constant change. I think I've been changing every day of my life. There's something
Mhm.
happening. There's an upgrade, there's a template, there's a prescription, there's a new drug. We're just changing.
Well, we're
Yes.
getting older and the customer keeps getting younger. Parents are between 25 and 35. So
Yeah.
at the beginning, you don't have a child, you're a pediatrician, all the parents are older than you. And then all of a sudden
Yeah, it's true.
you look back and you could be the grandfather of these children that are coming in, the newborns, and you're like, what?
So you got
And
the experience now. You
the
have the
25-year-old has a totally different mindset, because they don't know a day without a smartphone or a laptop, or, to them, Zoom and TikTok and all these things are just, they're woven into their daily lives, and they're not new for them. This is
right.
just how they grew up.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
as a pediatrician, you really are forced to change, and fast.
Now, speaking
Yeah,
of the TikTok thing and social media, are you involved in any of that stuff? Do you have a Facebook page? Do you have a
do have
TikTok?
a Facebook page. I don't have TikTok yet. We do have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter page. Yes. Again, we are only we just had our 1 year anniversary of being open. So social media has not been our focus. Our focus was getting the physical space ready, the processes
Yeah.
efficient, kind of building our practice. And so now we are moving into that space a little bit more. But yes, we have all of those pages.
Yeah, we have Facebook because most of the moms are still Facebook moms. We have some Twitter. I'm not a big fan of that, but whatever. The TikTok stuff, it's cool. I play guitar, so you get some cool guitar players and stuff. But I think it's just pretty darn silly. I can't put myself to I'm a physician. There's a little respect to our profession. I can't do that. Hopefully there's some staff can do it for us. But the
Yeah,
Facebook, I still think is good. But what I learned when we just reached our 1 year anniversary of our new office location build out. Actually, it's today. Throughout the whole process to get the word out, what I would do is every time we did something big, they put up the wallpaper to put in the furniture, I would record me walking in, recording a video like 2-3 minutes. Here's the new wallpaper. Here's the new pictures. Here's the new desk. Computers are in. And then we did a go live video. And then I put those guys and I would send them out to all the patients with a little blurb, here's an update. After you do that with your patient base, I ended up walking down the street. People knew me. You're the guy. You're with the kids. People that didn't even know me, because it goes through all over the place.
So Kathleen, you had a thought. What was your thought on TikTok and social media and all of this?
Oh, I think it's the same with any technology. If you use it in like a responsible way, it can be beneficial. So there's a limit to everything. Too much of something sometimes is not good, but using it in a way to, again, reach your patients. I think what you were saying is that those people felt closer to you because they saw what you were doing in each moment, putting up the wallpaper,
Right.
getting the space. So they had some closeness to you and some access to you, even if it wasn't like
Correct.
face to face. It gave them that access that I think families are looking for. And I think we've moved away from that in the last, ever since I was a resident. Everything moved away from spending more time with the patient. It was always less and less time with the patient. So I think that maybe that's why they really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Kathleen, on your private life, what's your favorite social media app? Is it Instagram or Facebook?
I don't use it in my private life.
You don't use them at all?
I have
Wow.
accounts. I have accounts, but I don't use them. I have, like, again, I have accounts. I'm not active on them. So
You're not active on it.
yeah, again, I
Okay.
needed to, that's part of addressing, yourself. I had to address, is this helpful to me, or is this keeping me from what my path is and where I want to go next? And, getting sucked into like an hour on Facebook is not a beneficial use of my time right now.
That is
So, but I
correct.
do use it for our business.
That is correct.
And I know you manage the after hours calls yourself when you're in town. You have the other solo pediatrician in town that he or she uh, covers for you. How about hospital rounding? Do you round in the hospitals anymore, or have you just opted out of that?
Yeah. So the culture, the standard in our area is that I don't know if anyone rounds anymore. It used to be that we would round on newborns, but we have like 4 different hospitals and 2 different hospital systems with different electronic medical records. So it became very difficult to get into each hospital, to use their system, and then to know where everything was, know where the nurses were. So the trend really in the last 10 years has moved that hospitalists take care of your, older children that are admitted to the hospital, and the newborn nursery doctors see your patients. So I do not round.
Yeah,
Do you think
that
patients
that
like that? Do you think patients like the hospitalist and the newborns to be checked by them? I'm not so
Do
sure
the
about
patients?
their patients appreciate that, or they don't know any better.
there's no
They don't
choice.
know any better.
They don't know
They
any
don't know
better.
any better, but I mean, so I know the medical director of the newborn nursery. I worked with her. So there's again that immediate closeness. So, she goes to round on them. They say who their pediatrician is, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Dr. Wania, I know her from this." And so that brings that closeness, I think, back in the relationship. So we do have very good relationships with the hospitalists and the newborn nursery doctors. We're very
Right.
collegiate with them and can communicate with each other. So that gives the patient that feeling of safety.
The truth is that's done by design. So most smaller NICUs, and when I say smaller NICUs, I'm saying between 10 and 15 bed NICUs at community hospitals, um, cannot sustain 4 neonatologists. It's impossible, but they don't have the revenue. So they need to kick out all the pediatricians so that the revenue for the normal newborns adds a little bit to the pot so the hospital loses less money. And from the private practice, especially if you're solo, you can't be going to 4 different hospitals. If you had a newborn each one, you spent the whole morning at the hospital. You wouldn't see any patients. So it's the
Yes.
reality of life.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it does burn you out. But I'll have a different take on that. We have a larger group, so we have more people going to the hospital. You would not believe how many times I do a college checkup on a kid, a girl, a boy, whatever. And then the mother with a tear in her eye says, "Do you know, Johnny, Dr. Rogue was the first physician to examine you ever in the newborn nursery 18 years ago." I mean, it's worthless, but it's priceless. It doesn't generate any income, but it does create some kind of goodwill.
but remember, in the old days, people only were at the community hospital, and many of the offices were a block or 2. You
Correct.
could literally walk to the hospital, go see a newborn, and come back. They started at 9 because they were rounding in the morning, and then they took a 2-hour break at lunch to grab something at the cafeteria, round on the kid the asthmatic that you saw in the morning, and then go back to the office. Now the
Correct.
distances, are so great, and at least in Northern Virginia, the community hospitals are getting completely out of all pediatric lines of service because
Correct.
there's so few patients. They only do newborns, and that's it. If you
Yeah.
want to go admit someone, go to the big mothership in Fairfax, and that could be an hour and a half drive from my house.
Yeah, that's a
You
problem.
you just can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think it's again going back to that. We have to evolve. So if it's still working, then it's still working.
Right.
If it's not, then you have to evolve and change and try to figure out where can I make up for
Oh, yeah.
this.
So you're happy and I hope profitable as a solo practitioner.
Yes, I'm definitely happy. Again, we've only been open for 1 year, so this is what everyone would consider the investment phase. So this is something you have to be prepared for, is
Correct.
that investment phase. So, I have bank loans. I invested my personal equity,
Yeah.
to start this. But yes, we are paying all those back. I still can pay my bills. I'm happy. And now you have this trajectory forward. So, year 2 will be better, year 3 will be better, and you can predict what will continue to happen with your revenue.
And I predict by year number 10, you'll be a superstar.
I think so.
I hope
But
so.
the most important thing is you're happy. You come to the office with, smile and energized that it's your business, it's your patients, and you're doing the best you can every day for each one of those families that come in.
Yeah.
I used to have to prepare to go to work, make it through the day and convince myself of my happiness, because I was happy being with my patients. So in the room, I was happy. And so when we finally opened the space and some of my patients followed me here, many times over and over, I heard them say, "You are really happy now. You don't have to fake it."
Oh,
And they're like, "I
nice.
can tell that you are truly happy now." And so again, that translates into your care. It translates into how well you care for them, because you don't have anything else to worry about. You can just be there, happy to be starting your day, happy to be seeing patients,
Correct.
happy to be helping.
Now,
Absolutely.
I have a very important question. One day you're going to be really busy. What is your thought process on partners? Good
So
question.
it's a good question. So it's, I set my business plan and what I'm registered as a solo owned LLC. So there is room in that to rework that. And then I've also invested all of this money. So, to have someone come in as a partner, they'd have to share that.
So did your former boss? Same
Yes.
mentality. And what happened?
Yep.
I don't think she has the same mentality. I think she.
I know, same thought process, I'm saying. not
No,
mentality.
I don't think so. She's saying, if you want to be a partner in the practice, I invested whatever, $250,000 in savings and loans.
Mhm.
I built this out. And if you want to be a partner, you're gonna have to come up with $125,000 loan to
Correct.
cash out. Just like if I was marrying a woman and we're gonna buy a house together,
Mhm.
well, I put in 50,000 for the mortgage, you put in 50,000, we split the mortgage, and I pay this bill, you pay that bill. That's a real partnership. But if you want to come to our practice and say, all right, make me a partner now and give me 50% of the profits, but I'm not signing on any of the loans, I'm not taking any risk. Well, that's not a partner.
Well,
One of 7.
what's that? You're one of 7. You know how to share. Sure.
Are you the first one in the middle or the last one?
I'm the second youngest.
The second youngest? I think it is very different models what her practice is than RBK Pediatrics. RBK Pediatrics has been around for 60 years.
Yeah.
And so somebody joining Kathleen's very young. She's going to practice for another 40 years.
Yeah.
And she's going to be a partner for 40 years.
Correct.
So that the old model where you joined somebody that was in their late 50s, and when people used to retire at 62, that's gone. That's very hard to find. Your practice is really a diamond that is very hard to find. I have a really interesting question. You seem to be very much an entrepreneur and an innovator. Do you are you a member of any coaching or mastermind groups or any support outside of your office to gather new ideas and thoughts?
I'm not in anything formal. I've done a lot of reading.
Okay.
So I, have books everywhere. So when I decided to do this, I did a lot of reading, and then I have tried to network. I mean, George knows that. I reached out to him. So any opportunity I see of I think this person could really help me in this situation, I just reach out and see what happens.
Great.
And it's
Smart
for the
move.
last year, it has worked very well.
Yeah.
Great. What haven't I asked you that you think might be of importance to our audience today?
I think it depends on who the audience is.
The audience is you a couple of years ago.
So it's mostly
so I think
independent pediatricians.
Yeah, the audience is you.
I think if it's independent pediatricians and not residents, I think that, letting them know, again, if you see a way to improve something and you're passionate about it, to not feel like it's too much, like it's not possible. It is, getting philosophical, but it is possible. If you see a problem and you feel like you have a solution, research the solution. Has anyone else done this? You don't need to reinvent the wheel, but has anyone else made this happen before? Can I replicate that? Or do I have to go out and do this on my own? And then you just learn along the way. If you're willing, like you said, if you're willing to continue to change and learn, you can accomplish whatever you would like. It's just that willingness to do that. If you're hoping for just, it to be given and then you reap all the profits from it, that's not probably realistic. But if you're willing to continue to work and learn and change and evolve, I think that then you don't need to be afraid of what you would like to do.
That's what you're saying. Be willing to change, be willing to learn. That's what keeps you on your toes and makes you the best doctor possible. What advice would you give a resident or a medical student? First, would you say, don't go into pediatrics or go into pediatrics? And if you're going to pediatrics, why?
And where would you go?
So I think that, I would definitely say go into pediatrics if that is what you want. I think residency is not made necessarily for the residents, if that sounds
right. Right. It's made for the hospital.
Teaches them, yes, it teaches them things and you get tools, you get knowledge, but it doesn't really look at that one single resident as a person. And so I think that's the hard part in residency is you kind of lose who you are maybe. And so my advice for residents is try to keep that, whatever you decided to go into medical school for, try to keep that within you as you're going through these like tough days that are super long and you're just being bombarded with things that you have to get done. And then try to find that again when you're finished, because it's hard. Residency is very hard.
It is. And then if you're coming out of residency, do you think people are ready to go into a solo practice, start their own practice right out of residency?
If you have the confidence, then yes. If you, have that inner drive and passion and the confidence of, yes, I will get this done no matter what it takes, then yes, I think you do. It is always nice to find a mentor. And so that if you have someone that you've worked with, like here we have a primary care track. So I have a resident that comes once a week. And so that's an easy place to get a mentor and then say, well, how did you do it? So help me now. So I think that's always nice if you find a mentor to utilize that person.
Correct.
And would you say to a graduating resident in pediatrics, go work for Optum, which is 60,000 doctors, or the big health system, or go into private practice?
I'd say go into private practice.
And make you happy. You control your destiny. You're successful, you did it. You failed, you did it.
Well, you get
and then you can retry.
You try again and be successful sooner or later. So
and you get to treat your patients the way you would like to be treated.
Yeah.
Kathleen, thank you for sharing part of your morning with us today. It's been wonderful to get to meet you this way, and we hope to meet you in person someday. Keep your passion, keep learning, keep changing. And I know George is here and I'm here. If you ever need anything, just give us a call. We're happy to help you.
Yeah, you got my email. We got to talk anyway. So
Yep, I will be. Don't worry.
Have a wonderful day in the practice.
Great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.